You want
What up, y'all?
I can't argue with you. You mad.
What up, y'all?
I can't argue with you. No. Look at you. Look at you. You
Come on, y'all.
Look at you.
We ain't got time for arguing.
I'm happy.
I love this song. It's so funny, but it's so true because there's so many people that want to argue and disrupt and destroy your happiness and your contentment. And it's just not worth it. You know, I always try to drop you a nugget. We just came out of the Focus on the Five mentoring. And in the Focus on the Five mentoring, we were talking about the family dynamics and family relationships and how it's important to heal before you can build, right? So the goal is to build your family, to build with your family, but you can't build your family or build with your family if there's contention, if you haven't healed first. And so one of the questions that came up that was really powerful was, you know, do you need to restore every relationship, like in your family, in your step siblings, in abusive relationships, people in your family that did things to you, abusive, that trauma that happened in your life? Is there a need to restore in order to, build? Do you have to restore to heal? And I told them there are some relationships you should reconcile and some you should restore. And there's a difference. To reconcile, is to become agreeable. And I'm not saying that necessarily you want to become agreeable with the person. Sometimes the agreeable is with you, that you resolve, that you reconcile, that you find resolve inside yourself. Yeah. And that you're not going to be re-injured. You're not going to continue to put yourself in the path of that harm, right? You resolve what happened. You resolve that it can't have the rest of your life. You resolve that, it can't be the same. It won't necessarily change beyond this moment. And you reconcile that within yourself, right? So that you're not continually hanging in a balance, or your life isn't hanging in a balance, hoping for something that's out of your power, out of your control, because either history or time has already got a hold of it. And sometimes we want to go back in time and try to replace or fix something that you can't fix back in time, right? So you got to reconcile that so it doesn't take the rest of your life. And then there's some relationships that needs to be restored, right? You need to go get them. You need to reach for them. You need to try to heal together. You need to be back together. Every relationship that has been torn does not need to be restored back to its original or a better sense or a better form. Every relationship that whatever happened doesn't need to come back to that space. Some things you gotta let go, but even in letting go, in your own heart, in your own mind, in your own spirit, you no longer let the toxicity of that event or circumstance hinder or destroy your path, excuse me, or your promise, right, of the future. And so you allow your insight, your understanding about the conditions, the climates of what took place to give you wisdom if this is a relationship that needs to be restored or reconciled, right? And that you find resolve between the two. So I don't want you to point the finger or point the blame. And I don't want you to always try to get somebody else to be responsible for that release, because you can get disappointed by thinking they should apologize and then they don't apologize. You can get disappointed by thinking or expecting that they should agree with you. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And that's not always the case. So sometimes you won't get that. So what happens when you don't get that apology? What happens when they don't say what you thought you would want them to say, when they don't own their part in it? Sometimes you have to resolve in your heart that it is what it is, without bitterness. Without bitterness, without indifference, without anger, without unforgiveness, and just say, I'm good. I just needed to get that off my chest. I just needed to communicate that. So there's a resolve, and then there's a restoring. There's some relationships are so weighty, so powerful. They need to be brought back together. They need to be a sense of healing, a sense of wholeness, a sense of what was lost found, a sense of what was broken put back together. And I think having the wisdom to understand the difference is where it's at. I hope that this helped you and gave you something to think about in the reconciliation of and the restoration of the family. You can't build until you heal. So heal, even if that healing is within yourself. Peace. Don't argue. Yeah, it's not worth it.